Back talking with Heather Vera about the sex talk. We do have one question from a viewer, and her question is, she wrote in on our Facebook page, Carrie asks, I would like to know what's appropriate to tell a 5-year-old about sex. Obviously, she knows that babies grow in bellies, but how do they get there and why?
Sure. Well, that's just something that you have to kind of know your child, first of all. And one thing that Mary Flo Ridley suggests is asking them, well, how do you think they get there? You know, like, where do babies come from? You know, maybe your child answers, well, they come from the store or something. And so then you kind of have a gauge as to where your child's thinking is at, and you can kind of change your, shape your answers to match.
Don't be shocked.
Don't be shocked. And where do you think they come from? And then take a deep breath. And but the thing that she could say is that, take an apple, for example. You can slice an apple open, you can show your daughter the apple and say, do you see the seeds inside of this apple? Inside every living thing is what it takes to make the next living thing just like it. And so that's the same is true for us. And so one thing that's pretty, that's pretty descriptive, but yet not too descriptive, is you could say something like, there's something deep inside of mommy that meets with something deep inside of daddy, and that's what's used to make that to make the baby. And then, really when it comes to how does the baby get out, just use the, there's a special opening between the mommy's legs, and it's called a vagina, and it's, and that's. And some babies are born by cesarean section, and so you have to kind of explain that too. But that's a really good way to start, because you're just kind of peeling back one of those little gauzy curtains, just one little bit at a time, and a lot of times that will be enough, for a child. If they ask more questions, then you just kind of have to step, again, ask, well, what do you think about that? Ask them see where their brain is at on the topic, and then you can kind of just guide them gently, into the appropriate places.
And making sure that you're telling kids about inappropriate touching, because it happens, unfortunately, at different ages, all ages.
And you want to make sure that, especially as young children, that you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, because they can tell stories, but you also want to, if your kid ever comes to you and says, hey, this happened, you want to believe them and look into that. And so, as I was saying earlier, just teaching your child the correct anatomical names for their body parts, and making sure they know, okay, these are private parts, and so we don't show them in public. It's okay for mommy and daddy to help you in the bathroom, and maybe grandma and grandpa, or whoever your caregiver is or something. But I have 2 little boys in my house. They're almost 6 and almost 4. And penis is just a word we say on a pretty regular basis around our house, so it's just, it's like, oh, get the bread, it's, and it's just almost part of the daily conversation.
And it's okay because it's anatomically correct.
Yes, and that's a good thing, because you want them to know, and not to be ashamed or anything like that, but that these are private, they're not for other people to see, but there's nothing wrong with them, they're not dirty, that type of thing. You want to give them a sense of pride and ownership in that, in terms of, okay, this is good, we're just going to keep it private.
And keep the conversation going, all the time. I mean, even into the teens, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's key.
Oh, absolutely key. And one of the little tips that a friend of mine likes to share is to be the driver. So sometimes your kids will be in the back seat, and they'll be talking, and they'll think that you, as the driver, the mom, can't hear them in the front seat. And so that's a really good time to pick up on what's going on in their lives, and then you can kind of gear conversation towards, or the same friend also said that if she knew something was going on with one of her kids, she would just keep driving around the block with her child in the car until the child spilled the beans about what was going on. So, she kind of took that took that moment to, okay, we need to talk about this, and we're not going to go home until we really get this out. So I thought that was a great idea.
If you want more information, we've got a couple websites that have been key. Mary Flo Ridley, maryflo.org, and the medinstitute.org.
It's the Medical Institute for Sexual Health. It's run by Dr. Joe McElhaney.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being here again today. We appreciate all of your advice. All right, stay close. We'll be back.